I'm excited today to have Justin Janowski on the podcast. Justin is the founder of Faith to Influence, where he helps Christian entrepreneurs master high integrity sales. Over thousands of sales calls and millions of dollars in deals closed, he's realized that sales, when done right, can be fun, loving, impactful, and a win-win for both sides, whether the prospect buys or not. His mission is to help Christian coaches optimize their business model, their pricing, and their sales strategies so that they can scale their income and their impact. If you believe that sales has to be pushy, sleazy, manipulative, dishonest, or difficult, he's here to help you rewrite those old stories and completely change your perspective so that you can achieve your business goals while honoring your prospects and honoring God. Justin, I'm so glad you're here. Man, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, William. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
I would love for you to share a little bit of your story with our listeners, Justin. I hit some of the high points, but particularly about your journey and your development as a leader. How did you get started?
Well, it really started when I was 18 years old and I opened a newspaper, and I might have been one of the last people to do this. And I found a job that was advertised in my area, and I didn't know what it was. It was a little bit discreet on what the details were. But I went into the interview and it was for selling Cutco knives. Have you heard of Cutco?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The American-made knife brand, very expensive, great product. I sold Cutco knives for a few years, and I got my chops worked out in sales and entrepreneurship, and I learned direct sales. I learned how to set a schedule, and I overcame a lot of fears, and I got my first speaking opportunities there. And as I did well in sales, I had an opportunity to open a district office and interview and train and develop the other sales reps, even as a 21-year-old. And that was my first introduction to leadership, entrepreneurship, and sales. And I know it sounds like a goofy job to a lot of people, but I loved it. It was really fun for me. And I got to go to some direct sales conferences, and I had a coach take the stage for the first time. And I heard of coaching outside of the context of sports. And his name was Hal Elrod, and he wrote The Miracle Morning.
Miracle
2.5
Morning.
million
Oh, yeah.
copies sold, so it's a sensation now. At that time, he was still writing the book, and I hired Hal to be my first coach, and it changed my life. And I thought, I want to do this. And I started my own coaching business, and I got exactly one paying client, and I promptly went out of business because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't have a system around sales or marketing. I found one interested person. I worked with them, and then that was it. I only made a few $100s. This was in 2012. 3 years later, after hiring my next coach, I tried again, and I launched my next coaching business. I called it Just in Time Coaching, and I made 3 sales. And so I did way better, and I made a few $1,000s, and then I went out of business because I didn't know what else to do. And then for 3.5 years, I worked under a couple of mentors who taught me about sales and marketing and how to build a business in the coaching space. And when I launched the next time, I did over $250,000 in revenue my first year. And now I've worked with over 1,000 clients and done millions of dollars in sales. And so I remember what it was like to be new and to not know how to find clients. And the struggle of that in those first couple of attempts. And then I remember the massive and seemingly immediate success of the third try. And, what I learned in between is kind of what I help people with now.
Wow. What a journey.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I can say that I have a Cutco knife.
Yes.
We love it. It's great. I think that is an amazing starting point for a journey like you're describing. To try twice and fail had to have been discouraging. Why did you keep going? What motivated you to get back up on that horse?
That's a great question. So I will say this, the first time I was doing my full-time job, and it was a side hustle, and I kind of walked into this first paying client, and I had one other client who wasn't ready to pay, and I just coached them for free. So I had 2 clients, but only one pay. And I know a lot of entrepreneurs could probably relate to that when they're new and they're nervous about charging and prices and all those things. And it just didn't register as a big event when I stopped working with those clients and I didn't have any new ones. It was like quiet quitting before that was a thing. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even register that, oh, I'd failed because I hadn't gone all in. It was just
Mm.
a little side hustle. And I know a lot of people start entrepreneurial side hustles and they just like wither and
Mhm.
they don't register it as a big deal because they had the full-time income to provide for them while they were trying this little side thing. So that was the first attempt. The second attempt was more serious because I quit my job. I felt like God was calling me to it. It felt like
Yeah.
a really big moment where I had a recognition that this was the work I was meant to do. And I quit my job to start that business and I made a few sales. And so I felt like I had some momentum, but then I kind of got stuck. And fortunately, I was still working with my mentor. His name was Ben Skemper, and he was coaching me while I was starting this coaching business. And he saw that I was stuck. And he said, well, why don't you come work with us? We'll teach you. You can learn. And so it felt like it was less of a failure and more of a stepping stone. It felt like the next right step was to work with my mentor and to learn from them. And so I didn't feel like I was giving up even though I was shutting down that second business. I felt like I was just taking the next step in the journey. And the truth is, I ended up enjoying working for another company and being part of the team and just performing my role on the team. And I may have been there for a long time, but it felt like while it was a company that was doing great work, they didn't share all my values. They didn't share my faith. The way they wanted me to respond to certain things and objections and things like that weren't exactly how I wanted to over time. And there became a bit of a disconnect in the faith and values area. And that's when I felt like God, directly called me into starting a business again. And this time the stakes were higher. So it was easy
Mm.
for me to fail as an entrepreneur those first two times because I was single. I was young. It didn't cost me much. I could take any kind of risk I wanted. But now I had gotten married and we had our first baby. And my wife,
Man.
yeah, my wife, Kara, had left her job at the Air Force Academy. She was a psychology teacher there to stay at home for Grace's first year of life because I was earning enough at my job I could provide. And it was my second day back to work, William, that I felt like I just got like punched in the chest and I knew I needed to quit that job and start this business. And I needed to put God at the forefront of my business. That was important to me. And I called my wife and I said, babe, I think I need to quit my job. I was very abrupt. And she had just given birth and like she was emotional. She started crying. She's like, wait, what? And we took a month and thought about it and prayed about it. And ultimately both came to the decision that like this just felt like what I was meant to do. And so now looking back, I can see like, okay, those first two attempts, that's what the world would call failing. But at the time, I just never thought of it that way. I just felt like they were steps in my journey. And
Mm.
I guess I've got this optimistic outlook that I don't focus on the negative as much as I see the opportunity. And I was like, okay, I learned from that. Now let me go do this next thing. Okay, I learned from that. Now let me do this next thing. And this time, in that third attempt, like I felt the same as I did the first two. I was uncertain. I had a lot of self-doubt. I had a lot of fear and anxiety. I wasn't sure it was going to work, but I felt like I had to try. And if it didn't work in 3 to 6 months, I knew exactly where I was going to go and ask for a job. And, I didn't burn my boats. I had a backup plan and I was just hoping. But it turns out like learning how to sell meant more than I realized. And it was easy the third time around by comparison to those first two attempts. And I could have never imagined. My goal was 60 grand that first year just to like feed my family and stay alive. And 250 grand, I couldn't have even guessed that that was possible. And so God's really cool. And it was all just part of the journey. So I know a lot of entrepreneurs listening are maybe in that phase of like the first attempt or the second attempt. It's not really working and they're stressed and they're like, should I keep going? And, maybe the reframe is that this is just a part of the journey and what you're dealing with and experiencing right now is going to lead you to the next step, which will lead you to the next one. And eventually you'll be an overnight success, but it really isn't. It really isn't overnight, right? It's there's so much in between.
That's so good. It really illustrates the truth that there is no such thing as a wasted experience in your life. Those Cutco days, could be seen as a detour or not really the career that you ended up in, but really it all is used. And I find that God uses every experience in our lives, either for our benefit or for the benefit of the people around us. In this case, it's both. So stepping into that and your view on the first two runs at this, I think is such an illustration of what John Maxwell calls failing forward and seeing failure as simply a step in the journey. That is very healthy. And I hope our listeners picked up on that, because that is how we need to view any setback, any failure. It's not the end of the line. It's not okay, now you fell off the horse, so stay down. No, it's simply a step in your journey. So now you have built a successful coaching practice. You're helping a lot of people. How did you get from that to saying, hey, I want to help other people do the same thing?
Yeah, great question. And I do want to say this. One thing that I've recognized, like looking back, is the value of preparation. And there's so many forms of it. I know that great coaches and entrepreneurs and leaders have prepared in one of probably three different ways, and hopefully, and at the highest levels of success, all three ways, of course, which is preparing our skill set and developing our skill set. And that just requires the repetition and time. And so for the
Yes.
person who's trying right now and it's not working yet, if you're getting the repetitions in, that's critically important to developing your skill set to the level that you're going to be able to attract your ideal client. We need the
Good.
repetition, we need the time, but we also need to develop our relationships. And so I got a lot of clients from my Cutco relationships. I got a lot of clients from
That's
the
good.
relationships I built working for that other company when my business hadn't taken off. All the relational equity that was developed during that period of time as I showed up as well as I could, even when things weren't going my way, meant so much later. And then the third part of it is development of our character. And so I was developing my character. I was learning how to be generous. I was learning how to show up for other people. I was learning how to deal with success and failure and, the kind of the combination of two. I was learning so many things and developing so many aspects of my character that would serve me later. And so if you're showing up with honesty and integrity and love, and you're honoring your relationships and you're developing relationships and you're getting skill set repetitions, even if you don't have the results you want yet, all of those things over time are going to add up to success later. They mean something later, and that means that they mean something right now.
Mm.
So I just wanted to share that. I'll say I originally my group was I was working with Christian entrepreneurial men. That was my initial business, and we were working very broadly on like sales and leadership, but then also on how to be better husbands and fathers and how to integrate our faith into the different things that we were doing. And so that was my initial business. And occasionally we got hired by big 7 and 8 figure companies to come and do sales at their conferences and events because I was known for sales. And so people would need a sales team. They'd be like, hey, can you guys help? And I would bring some of my relationships and we would do the sales. We'd be the back of the room sales team. So that was the initial business. And as I worked with some of those Christian entrepreneurial men over the first couple of years, a handful of them wanted to be coaches or already were coaches and they wanted to scale. And when they saw the success I was having, they started asking questions. And I remember working with my first couple of coaches while I was still running the men's group. And it was so fun for me to help others fulfill their dreams and their
Mm.
missions and finally overcome the sales barriers or the marketing barrier, the things that were hard or scary for them, seeing their breakthroughs and helping them have the impact that they were meant to have felt just so compelling to me. And it felt like there was less resistance for me. I just felt like this natural ease that like that was my wheelhouse or my zone of genius was helping these other Christian entrepreneurs with sales. And so after a couple of years, I transitioned fully into that. I know other great coaches who helped with some of the other things I was working on, but I was a little bit too broad, to be honest, early on. And so I created some referral partnerships and introduced people who needed other things to other coaches. And I started just working with Christian coaches fully, men and women. And that's just been the greatest joy I've had professionally.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you have a live event, a conference
Yeah.
in July.
Yes. We run an annual conference called Christian Coaches Academy Live. We shorten it to CCA Live, Christian Coaches Academy. It's an amazing group of coaches and leaders. Some Christian entrepreneurs and service providers are there as well. And we have great speakers. Tom Ziglar's coming in to speak again, son of legendary Zig Ziglar. We've got other great speakers and sponsors and just an amazing group of people. Last year, we had 75 Christian entrepreneurs there. We're expecting to have 100 plus this year. And the community is just really special. I was actually talking to Tom yesterday and interviewing him on my podcast. And we were talking about the event a little bit. He said, man, it just felt like family. And
Mm.
Tom's somebody who's spoken at Harvard and Cambridge and billion-dollar companies, and he gets flown all over the world and gets paid a lot to speak. And he's waived his speaking fees to come and speak with us a couple of times because he loves our group and our community. And I think that's what's so special about it is being
Mm.
able to praise together, share, faith and values and have meaningful conversations, and the relationships that are formed in that room means so much. And along the way, we're teaching about sales and marketing and branding and helping people launch and grow their businesses. And it's a really special event. I think it's the best event there is for Christian coaches that I've seen or been to. And that's what I've heard a lot from others. I know there are other great events out there, but this one's really special. It's happening July 15th through 17th in Milwaukee, which is my hometown. I think it's an underrated city. I give everybody my city guide, all my favorite restaurants. There's beautiful beaches on Lake Michigan in Milwaukee and a lot of
Wow.
unexpected special places in this city that I love showing off and inviting people to.
I got to say, I did not know there was a beach in Milwaukee.
There are many beaches, and Lake Michigan is so massive that it feels in the summer, July on Lake Michigan, feels like you're in San Diego. I know people won't believe that until they come, but that it feels like you're at the ocean because Lake Michigan is so massive. It looks like the ocean when you're looking out at it. And Bradford Beach is amazing. And in the summer, we have the biggest music festival in the world. It's Summerfest in Milwaukee. There's a great
Who knew?
culture, sports culture, and restaurants. Milwaukee's an underrated gem, and you can drive around and park, and it's not a big deal.
My goodness. Well, it just made my bucket list. So
Yeah,
that's excellent. I love that. Oh, that's fantastic. Just not in the winter, right?
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I specifically avoid the winter for the conference. It's fun to have snow. It's fun to have the white Christmas. And if winter was only 1 week or 1 month, it would be wonderful. February, March can get a little bit long after the
Right.
winter. So
Right.
come in the summer, come in the fall, summer and fall in Milwaukee. Incredible.
That's good. That's so good. I love that. So, with the event, is this something that you're hoping to use as a conduit to share not just what you're learning, but also from these other speakers and the other people that you have who are a part of this? Is your hope that this becomes a conduit for coaches to learn how to integrate their faith in best practices around sales and marketing, branding, and all these things so that they can build successful practices? Is that the end game, or is there something even bigger than that?
I think what you're talking about there, so that they can have success and fulfill their mission, that really is it. I know that there are millions of coaches out there who are incredible and they've got big hearts for service and they're generous and they can help people. And they maybe even have coaching certifications. They've worked hard. They've developed their character and their skill sets and their relationships, and yet they have zero clients. And for the Christian coaches doing that kind of work, in so many cases, it feels like 95% of cases, people say, God has called me to this work. This is what I'm meant to do. And yet they've got zero clients because I think they've got these stories that they either need to be a sleazy, greedy salesperson, or they need to be a generous, loving neighbor without clients. And they can't have both. And what this conference is designed to do is to help these amazing, high integrity, loving Christian leaders learn how to integrate sales, marketing, and business growth strategies in a high integrity, loving way that honors God, that honors their prospects, that honors themselves and their families, so that they can feel really good doing the work that they do every single day. And that sales can just be an expression of that. And so that they can actually start attracting the clients that they were meant to attract, helping the people they were meant to help, and fulfill the mission that God's called them to. So many coaches and entrepreneurs are struggling. And I want the Christian coaches and entrepreneurs who have integrity, the people who want to do good work. I want to help them shine. I want to help them experience tremendous success so that they can serve their families, that they can give back to their churches, that they can make a bigger difference in their community. And so that's what this is all about, helping people launch and grow a consistent business that can provide for their family, that can tithe generously to their church, and that can have ripples and ripples and ripples of impact in the marketplace and the world.
I think you're illustrating something that I believe is what makes a leader catalytic. It's one of the key components. And that is a generosity of what you learn and the experiences that you have. Your learnings, your education, your training, all the things that you learn through your own journey, your own experience, those things are not just for you. They're also for the benefit of other people. And yet so many people act like a reservoir and try to hold it all inside and keep all these learnings and the secrets of success to myself. When in fact, I think God calls us to be a conduit and to share freely. And when we do that, what I find is that there is no end. We continue to share and more continues to come. And we continue to share and more continues to come. And you seem like such an example of that.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's what coaching is. And that's how we were meant to show up for each other.
Yes.
For so many entrepreneurs, and I know a lot of your listeners are probably solopreneurs or they're building a side hustle and they just feel like this is their dream on the side of the work that they're doing day to day. But for so many entrepreneurs, it's really lonely. They're trying to do everything by themselves and they're trying to be the sales team, the marketing team, the branding team, the coaching team, the finance team, the tech team in their business. And the marketplace is telling them that they have to be on podcasts and run their own podcast and have a YouTube channel and be posting on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. And they need to be running telesummits and conferences and retreats and challenges and webinars. And they need funnels. And I'm like, when I heard that, I'm like, what do you mean a funnel? Like a funnel cake? Like at the Wisconsin State Fair? Like, what do you even, I don't even know what that is. And they need to be running ads with no money that they're starting up with. And they need to write a book, of course, an Amazon bestseller.
That's
And they
right.
need to be writing a blog and sharing an email news. And they're one person and they're like overwhelmed with how can I do all of this? And what I want people to know is it can be a lot easier than that. We can have team and community and people around us. We don't have to feel like we have to figure it all out on our own. And the best plans are the ones that are simple and
Mm.
evolve as they go. And so for the new entrepreneur, we teach people the simplest, easiest way for them to engage their ideal prospects and clients and to grow a business. And then as they grow, how can they expand the complexity of the business? But in the early days, we need to keep it simple. Too many people are doing the wrong things and chasing the wrong things because they're confused and the marketplace makes it sound really complicated. And we want to help people take the right actions that actually lead to success and a foundation that they can build on.
Oh, that's so good. Justin, you have had to continue to grow as a leader and continue to develop your own leadership skills. But the demands on you today are higher than they were 5 years ago. And the same thing's going to be true 5 years from now. How do you stay on top of your game?
Mm.
How do you level up with the new leadership skills that your team, your clients are going to ask of you in the days ahead?
Well, one thing to remember, William, is what I shared before that we're always developing and preparing. And God is preparing us for that next season. So as we're doing the work that we're doing right now, there's no doubt going to be a lot of successes, but also a lot of challenges, a lot of little mistakes, a lot of failures, a lot of learnings. And I'm getting
Yes.
the repetitions right now. And so all the time, just by showing up inside of my business, by showing up for my clients, by showing up for my team, I'm going to be learning. And
Mm.
so I'm going to be developing my character. I'm going to be developing my skill set. I'm going to be getting the repetitions. I'm going to be developing more relationships and ideally attracting the right people to my team to help and recognizing that
Yeah.
now that I am growing, I'm not meant to be a solopreneur. I need to surround myself with team and partners who are experts at the things I'm not good at. That's a
That's
big
right.
part of growth as a leader is recognizing our strengths and our weaknesses and how can we build teams and communities and relationships with people who are different from us, who have different skill sets and different geniuses, and
Yes.
empowering them to do their work. So that's a big part of it, is just being in the game and getting the repetitions. There's naturally going to be learning from that. But the other reality is I think great coaches have coaches. And so
Yes.
making sure that I'm surrounding myself with other coaches and other mentors and other leaders who can help and teach and lean in with me is critically important. And I honestly, I think your network is your net worth is a quote we all know because there's a big truth to it. And the reality is just getting into relationship with the right people, meeting someone like you and getting to learn from you and what you have to share and what you're talking about. It already makes me better. Meeting Tom Ziegler and getting to know him and having those conversations with him. And then he introduces me to somebody new and you might introduce me to somebody new. And like the relationships of who we surround ourselves with are some of the greatest factors in the growth that we're going to experience. And so my aim is to continue to be open And to be a net giver, as some people in my network have called it, where I'm showing up and I'm giving to the relationships that I'm engaging in such
Yes.
a way that it's growing, it's generous, it's developing, and that network equity ends up leading to so many things. I'm going to continue to meet people who give me good ideas and who give me good wisdom and share, and that's a huge component of this.
I love that. Is there a book that's made a big difference in your journey that you'd recommend to the leaders who are listening?
There are so many books. The first personal development book that I read that really impacted me, it was when I was 18 or 19 or 20, was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That's an oldie but a goodie. Just it really inspired me to think about my mindset in a way that I had never considered before that. So I love that. In recent years, I've really enjoyed The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Great book.
Yeah, yeah. And he wrote, what was the book he wrote right after that? It's on my shelf, I'm sure. It's escaping me right now, but it's something about like the walk with Jesus, and how to be a disciple of Jesus, be an apprentice of Jesus, practicing the way. Practicing the way, I
I
think it's
haven't read
called.
that one.
Yeah, practicing the way. So these are great books, but I mean, there's so many good books. It's a hard question to answer. I think finding something that we're excited to read, that we're excited to open, that we can't put down, is always compelling. And so, there's millions of great books out there, and people just grab one and open it up.
That. Last question that I'll ask you. I think a lot of people look at you and they've been listening to our conversation and thinking, oh my goodness, man, Justin, he's just got it all together. His journey's just been up and to the right. He's never struggled like I struggle or had to deal with the challenges that I deal with. And of course, we know that's not true. But in light of that idea, if I had the ability to snap my fingers and right now solve one problem in your business, immediate, what would you want that problem to be?
I'm really trying to figure out scale at a new level, and building a successful multiple six-figure business, that felt easy. Scaling to the next level beyond that feels hard, so we are working on funnels and ads and webinars and figuring out like multiple offerings and levels and how to integrate team. And like, there's a lot of complexity in my business now. Again, I don't recommend that for the new entrepreneur, but in navigating that complexity and trying to figure out scale, I feel like we're close and we're starting to crack some of that code and
Nice.
and break through a ceiling right now. But that's one of the things that feels important. And then personally for me, and this will lead me to another book recommendation, I'm working on being able to respond to people and situations and conversations and the online polarization with a greater peace. And I want to be an unshakable leader. And I'm
Mm.
reading a book with my wife right now called The Anatomy of Peace. And
Ooh,
this is a very good book. Have you read this?
I have not.
Okay, The Anatomy of Peace is talking about our heart posture towards others. And it's really like this recognition that in every interaction, our heart posture is either at peace or at war with the other person. And like you can find this in our marriages, we can find this in like a conflict on our team or with a friend or a sibling or whatever it might be. If we do something with a posture of war in our heart, it's not going to be received well, no matter what we do. It's kind of like the old
Mm.
example of like, if your wife's like, can you do this task? Can you do this task? Can you do this task? And then you're like doing it with a grumpy attitude and posture towards it. And she's like still upset, even though you did the task. And this is an example the book's giving. And then of course, the husband's going to be like, why are you mad? I did exactly what you told me to do. Well, it's because I did it with war in my heart. I
That's
did
so
it
good.
like, in a way that wasn't really effective or kind. But if I have love in my heart and if I got a posture of peace towards the other person, and we think about the online discourse and everything that's happening right now and the very heated exchanges, people have war in their hearts. And so they're not open to receiving the other person. They begin to see people as objects instead of as human beings. And we lose sight of what's most important when we have war in our hearts. And so what I want to really do is learn how to have a posture of peace in my heart towards other people when they disagree, when they say or do things I don't like, when they make mistakes, when I make mistakes. I just want to have that posture of peace. And I think that that is critically important for me in my life right now.
Mm, that's so good, man. I'm going to check that book out. I love that. How you do a thing matters more than the thing.
That's right.
That's so good. Justin, this has been a great conversation. I've so enjoyed talking with you again and hearing more about your journey and what God's done in your life, in you, and through you. I know people are going to want to stay connected to you and learn more from you, and particularly about this event that's coming up in July. But what's the best way for them to do that?
We're going to put a link in the show notes that talks about the CCA Live event. I would love for people to sign up and join us live at that event. And if you just want to get connected or like pay a little bit more attention before making a decision like that, you can follow me on social media, Justin Janowski, very easy to find me. And you can also check out our podcast, Sales Strategies for Christian Coaches.
Awesome. We'll have those links in the show notes.
Thanks,
Justin,
Wood.
thank you so much for your generosity today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.